Welcome back. I'm going to do design sheet metal tutorial. There's only one. Create sheet metal parts. Pretty fun. Let me move this thing off to the side here. Got fusion going. Looks like this one is using Y up. So double check that that's going on, Y up. And it's millimeters. You can expand document settings and check your units that they're millimeters. All right, then you want to go to the sheet metal tab and create sketch. And the plane you want is this one down here, the blue red, which is the XZ plane. Click that and click 2D point, two-point rectangle. The tutorial is asking you to just use the grid snap and click point, move your mouse, click a point. We got that right there. Click finish sketch. Then go to the, we're still in the sheet metal menu, go to create flange. So I guess all the flat areas of the sheet metal part are called flanges. Which is fine. So click this thing here, the 2D rectangle. So the sheet metal rule determines the thickness of the material. So use steel millimeter by default and click OK, and then it has a certain thickness. So then we want to make some more flanges based off of this one. So we go back to create flange, click these inside edges, and using the same yeah, all of these parts are going to use the same rule. I guess it's based off of the very first time you make a flange, you select a rule and then it uses that rule, which defines the material properties of material sizes, the bend radiuses, things like that. Anyway, just select those three edges and you need a height on this thing, 25, and it will accept OK then. So now we have this thing, and it does this edge treatment here, right? There's a certain thickness to the material, and there's a certain way that it's doing these corners here, and that's in the rule. All of those things, bend radiuses and stuff, like different materials can bend at different radiuses. You know, they might some crack. You know, like aluminum is notorious for cracking if you bend it too sharply. So anyway, there's lots of the features like bend radius and material thickness and other features that are in the rule. All right, we can make a new rule. So you go to modify sheet metal rules, and it brings up this dialog of all the rules that are in this design and then in this library. So right now this design is using steel millimeters on this one part. And they want us to get into the library here and take steel, click steel, and then go over here to new rule, and it'll create a new rule based on steel. So these are all the values for this steel millimeter 1 rule. So they ask you to change the name. I'm going to call it Ross rules. And then you can change the material thickness here, 1.5 for example, and you can expand bend conditions. And you can specify the bend to be related to the thickness, as thicker materials need a bigger bend. So you can say thickness times 1.15, right? So the thicker the material is, the thicker the bend will be. And likewise, you can go down to corner conditions and like expand to bend something, to bend intersection, and how you want those intersections to be treated. And the tutorial asks you to select square. But I don't really like square, so I'm going to use round because it's easy to just drill a hole with a drill bit and make a corner. I don't know why you'd want to do square. Squares have higher stresses anyway, so I'm just going to pick round and then save that. So we have a new rule called Ross rule with all these features that we want to have for our metal, and we close that. Now to apply that rule to our part, you you go up here to the browser and it adds this, I guess that was already there, but you click over here where it says switch rule and scroll down, expand the library, and down at the bottom is our new rule. Click OK. And the part got a little bit thinner, right? The material got thinner and my corners are round now. See? Which which is easy to make with a drill bit, like I say in the pattern. You just drill a hole at the 4 corners. That's what they usually do. Or they do a lot, not always, but especially with aluminum, like high hardness aluminum, like is used in airplanes. Airplanes have they use very hard grades of aluminum that are prone to cracking. So they gotta, one of the things you can do to reduce cracking is use a lot of rounded radii. All right, there's that thing. So this is pretty cool. We're talking about rules like bend radii and stuff. All of that makes it difficult to make a flat pattern because you have to calculate how long the, how big the material is dependent on these radii and stuff. It's always a pain. So it's nice that this thing will actually do that. So you can go up to create flat pattern, and it wants the face that you're going to base the pattern off of. So click that face and click OK, and it makes this flat pattern, and there's the round holes I was talking about that you could just drill with the drill bit. Before you cut the corners off, of course, you start with a big square piece. It comes out to, out here somewhere, and then you drill a hole, and then you just cut into those holes and fold it up. So we'll click the big green check mark and finish that design, and now flat pattern is part of our browser. It's a new tab on our browser. We still have our bodies and everything, body one and all that, but flat pattern's a new thing. Okay, now we can go back to that by mousing over this end and clicking activate flat pattern. Brings us back into the flat pattern, and now we can make a drawing from that. So we can go, so we're in the design workspace, but now we're going to click this big button here and go to the drawing workspace. And then drawing from design, click that. So we need to save our existing design before we can go on, because it's going to make, I don't know why, but it's going to make a new project, but it does ask us to save the old design. So I'm going to call this Ross's steel cereal box. And the folders, I'm just going to put it in default project folder and save. So it saves that. And I think I need to click OK, right? Yeah, and it makes this new project, right? So the old project's still, there's a tab for the old project, but it made a new project, and it gives me this thing here. And you can drop that thing on there. And then the other thing you can do, you can go up here to drawing view, base view, and click it on there, and then before you go away, before you click OK, you can change the orientation. Northeast isometric, you can change it to back view, change it to top view, northwest I think is maybe northeast. Anyway, it's nice to have a little isometric up in here for the person that's trying to make this thing. And I suppose it's possible, I'm sure it is, to put dimensions on this, but I haven't done those tutorials yet. So those will be pretty cool. Anyway, this is a pretty powerful tool, especially if it does all these calculations on the to account for the bend radii and stuff, because that's always a difficult thing to do. All right, I hope this was useful to you. See you next time.